The crime story of Rosemary West. Hello there. Let's start this crime story by asking you this question. What do you know about Rosemary West? Even if you have heard anything about her before you got on this channel, you must have seen other videos that deal with various aspects of the crime story of Rosemary West. Please enjoy it. Who is Rosemary West? We love to start by telling those of you who may not have heard about this evil woman a few things about her. And if you have known a bit about her either from what you saw on this channel or somewhere else, this profile we're about to discuss will be an important reminder for you. So valuable that you would see it as a good background. So who is Rosemary West? With the full name Rosemary Pauline West, she was born on 29th November 1953 in Barnstable, Devon. Her parents were William and Daisy Gwendoline Letts. The mother had a difficult antenatal period and had to be given ECT during pregnancy. This likely caused a prenatal injury to Rosemary, as she was moody throughout her teen life and even performed poorly at school. Complicating things for her, her parents split up while she was in her teens. She initially lived with her mother, but later moved in with her father at 16. She was dealt with violently by her father, who also sexually abused her. Girls with such terrible backgrounds usually grow up to become prostitutes and terrorists and engage in other sorts of crime. About the time she was being abused by her father, she began dating Fred West, then residing at Lake House Hotel Caravan Park at Stoke Road, Bishop's Cleeve. Her father disapproved of the relationship. He threatened to call social services and threatened Fred directly. Meanwhile, Fred was previously married and had a daughter with Rena Costello. In spite of her father's threat, Rose and Fred moved in together and she became pregnant by 1970. On 29th of January 1972, Rose married Fred in a ceremony that took place at the Gloucester Register Office. Fred falsely described himself as a bachelor while signing the marriage certificate. He could get away with that since no family or friends were invited. Venturing into crime. Rose's interest in crime was ignited by her marriage to Fred West. He had a background similar to that of Rose. Fred, too, was abused as a child. In fact, when both of them first met at Cheltenham bus stop in early 1969, Rose, who just turned 15, was initially pissed off by the unkempt appearance of 27-year-old Fred. As he continued to shower attention on her, however, Rose felt flattered by copious attention being showered on her and agreed to a date. As both of them had been subject to abuse as a child, their marriage relationship was the worst possible combination, cold-hearted and ready to commit any sort of crime. Rosemary and Fred West were convicted of sexual assault counts in January 1973. They were fined heavily for the indecent assault of Caroline Roberts, formerly Carol Owen, who escaped the Wests' home after being attacked. She reported them to the police. Police discovered that this couple's style was to pick up girls from bus stops, mostly in and around Gloucester. They then imprisoned their victim in their home for several days before murdering them. She also regularly worked as a prostitute, many times in the presence of her wedded husband. Several months later, the couple moved from Midland Road to 25 Cromwell Street as Rose became pregnant with her second child. There she continued her trade of prostitution. She was often impregnated by different men and eventually became the mother of 8 children. 5 of them were fathered by Fred West and the other 3 were products of prostitution. Her crimes. Rose West committed at least 10 murders between 1971 and 1987. The crimes for which she was convicted originally occurred between April 1973 and August 1979. As time went by, it was discovered that she had been involved in several others, such as the murder of 8-year-old Charmaine West in 1971. She was also accused of rape, incest, torture, mutilation and dismemberment. These murders were mostly committed by strangulation and suffocation. She has a long and complicated crime story. The murder of Charmaine West. Charmaine was her stepdaughter born to Fred by his previous wife, Catherine Rena Costello. In June 1971, while Fred West, her husband, was serving a 6.5-month sentence for petty theft of car tyres and a vehicle tax disc, Rosemary killed the 8-year-old and buried her securely in their previous home, 25 Midland Road, Gloucester. Charmaine was never declared missing. What was most ironic about the whole show was that Rose had earlier become a willing childminder to this little girl, even chiding Fred as being negligent toward Charmaine. The murder of Catherine Bernadette. Another shocking murder was that of 27-year-old Catherine Bernadette Rena West, the former wife of Fred West and the mother of Charmaine. Rena maintained intermittent contact with her children while she and Fred separated. She cared about the welfare of the 3 children and their whereabouts. In August 1971, she was provided with Fred's new address at Midland Road. She sought to confront him, probably to discuss or request custody of her daughters. She never came back alive, as that was the last time she was seen alive. She was likely murdered by strangulation, probably in the back seat of his Ford Popular and possibly while intoxicated. Her extensively dismembered body was discovered in plastic bags with a short length of metal tubing, so there was a possibility she was restrained and sexually assaulted prior to her murder. The murder of Heather West. One of the bodies found at Rose and Fred's home at 25 Cromwell Street was that of Heather Ann West, their daughter. Heather was 16 years old when she was brutally murdered in June 1987. Her remains were found under the patio at 25 Cromwell Street. That appeared to be the last murder carried out by the pair. Heather was abused by her own mother, Rosemary, while Fred raped her. They told friends and concerned parties, including neighbours, that Heather had gone to somewhere to work at a holiday village. Heather was abused all her life. When she began to tell her friends at school and elsewhere about the abuse occurring in her home, she was threatened with death. Barry, her younger brother, saw it but could not do anything. He later described how he, as a little boy of just 7 years, would be watching his mother kick his sister repeatedly, even in the head, until she was no longer moving. But Barry had been threatened by Rose and Fred that he too would end up on the patio like his sister. We can also go ahead and mention other victims such as 19-year-old Linda Carol Goff, Carol Ann Cooper, aged 15, Lucy Catherine Partington, aged 21, Teresa Siegenthaler, aged 21, Shirley Hubbard, aged 15, Juanita Marion Mott, aged 18, Shirley Ann Robinson, aged 18, and 16-year-old Alison Jane Chambers. Arrest and dramatic trial. On the 6th of August 1992, Rose and Fred were apprehended after being accused of raping their daughter, just 13 years old, 3 times. While Fred was arrested for raping, Rosemary West was accused of child cruelty. Unfortunately, they couldn't be prosecuted because their daughter, probably out of fear, refused to testify in court. Nevertheless, they lost the custody of all their children to foster homes. But then, this case ignited the investigation into the mysterious disappearance of Heather West. The major investigation that followed uncovered the remains of those Rose and Fred had killed. Although Rose didn't confess and Fred, her husband, had committed suicide while awaiting trial, the circumstantial evidence against her was overwhelming. In October 1995, she went on trial. The jury was unanimous on the 22nd of November 1995 that Rose was guilty of 10 murders. She was sentenced to life imprisonment. Later, the Lord Chief Justice decided that she might be considered for parole after serving at least 25 years. However, Home Secretary Jack Straw in July 1997 subjected her to a whole life tariff. This made the second English woman in modern times to be condemned to die in prison. The first was serial killer Myra Hindley, whom Rose befriended while in the same prison. There's yet a lot more to be discussed about, and especially to learn from, the crime story of Rosemary West. Please let's continue this engaging discussion in the comments section. Thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell.